After 2 rounds of racing on opposite coasts, round 5 and 6 of TC America, powered by Skip Barber, center punched the country at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. This world-class circuit with 20 turns blends high-commitment corners and long straights with complex switchbacks and heavy braking zones over its 3.5-mile layout. COTA has become a home event of sorts for SRO America, and the result is a Texas-sized stage for 21 touring car drivers in 3 separate classes. As the season moves into its 3rd event weekend, the pressure is on for the championship leaders to maintain their advantage in the Lone Star State. Hi everybody, Kyle Heyer, Calvin Fish alongside. Amanda Busick is in the pit lane and Ash Vandelay on Twitch. And Calvin, it's a pleasure to be alongside you here for the 3rd round of the year, rounds 5 and 6. This is a big place for these 21 drivers, a huge stage on this great weekend.
It really is just a wonderful circuit here at Circuit of the Americas. It's been home to a US Grand Prix since 2012, so it has a lot of prestige, and all of the drivers love coming here, and there's plenty of room, plenty of real estate out there to coexist, so we expect plenty of side-by-side action here this morning.
Yeah, it's certainly a warm morning here, but it's going to continue to get warmer throughout the weekend. This series, of course, racing before lunchtime here, so the temperature continues to rise. It's a little bit warmer than it was in qualifying this morning. But as we get set to go racing here today, it's a 40-minute race with 3 different car classes here, Calvin. TCX, TC, and TCA. A great variety of front drive and rear drive cars. But Amanda Busick is on the pit lane before we get rolling here.
Hey, Cal, as you said, it is a bit of a homecoming for the series, and what a way to kick off competition here at the Circuit of the Americas. I know you guys are going to roll through this grid coming up, but just a couple of notes to point out. I did talk to a couple of the guys racing in the Acuras here today in that TCX class. They feel like the BOP is getting stronger and stronger enough to compete with the BMWs, and said that it's just a matter of time before they get there. You do see Chris Walsh again on pole. We'll see if he can continue to bat 1,000 here this weekend, but you guys roll through that grid because we got racing here in Austin.
Thanks, Amanda. And yeah, the 22 of Celso Neto, he has just been spectacular so far, trying to work on this new Acura Integra Type S. But row 1, it's Chris Walsh in that 104, 4 wins on the season, alongside the Brazilian Celso Neto in the 22 Acura. Lucas Catania and Mike Lamaro make up row number 2. And then it's Mario Biondo and Aaron Kaplan in row number 3. Starting 7th, it's Cooper Broll in the Acura, the number 19 car, and Nick Roberts in the 29 in 8th. In 9th place, it's Christopher DeFreitas in the number 39, and Joseph Catania starts 10th in the 16. Moving on into the TC field, it's Jeff Rica, another driver who has had a great start to the season in his number 78 Hyundai. Joey Jordan in the FTG Racing Mazda 3 rolls off 2nd. In 3rd place, it's Sally McNulty in the 780 alongside Christian Pericarpi in the 37. And behind them, it's Ruben Iglesias Jr. in the 77 Hyundai, and Chris Valdez making his return to the championship in 18th overall. And Scott Thompson rounds out the grid in the TC field. In the TCA field, it's PJ Gronke, who had a pretty good start to the season as well. The Canadian rolls off on the pole for the TCA grid, then Alex Garcia in 2nd, Matty Lemke in 3rd, and rounding out that TCA field, it will be Alan Grossberg in the number 63 Mini. Calvin, some smoke out of the 22.
Yeah, that's not good news there for Celso Neto. He certainly put the pressure on Chris Walsh for qualifying this morning and the pole, but there's a lot of smoke coming out of that Integra right now.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't look ideal, but we'll see if it gets worse or goes away. Either way, I think it's not a good start to the race for the 22, but here we go, line astern here for the TCX field as they wait for the green flag to fly for the 40 minutes here. And the safety car has been deployed, and it looks like we will not get a green flag, Calvin.
Yeah, well, green actually is out, so Chris Walsh has actually got the fire here, and he's got to the pole. It looks like Lucas Catania making a big move down to the inside on Celso Neto. Let's just wait and see how that smoke evolves there. He's still got it as he powers down the hill into turn 2.
TC field gets the green flag, and it's a great start there by Jeff Rica. The FTG Racing Mazda moves over to the left to cover off Sally McNulty in the Borla car. Big lunge up the inside there, but the outside, it's Pericarpi in the Mini.
A big move there. He's way out of bounds. They're trying to blend back in as you come down that hill. This is modeled after the Senna S into Lagos. Very fast right-hand sweeper here.
And then in the TCA field, there was a bit of side-by-side in the background, but up at the front of the TCX field, Walsh leads. It's the 17 of Lucas Catania, and then it seems like the smoke has gone away on the Neto car. That could be foreboding worse things, but for now, it's gone away.
Yeah, you never know if it's just been overfilled in one of the tanks or something, or whether he's just running out. So we'll have to wait and see. He's now putting the pressure on Lucas Catania, who's certainly at his sights set on trying to jump back into that top 2 position right at the off, but Chris Walsh looking comfortable up front.
Back in the TC field is Sally McNulty and Ruben Iglesias Jr. They had a great fight back at Sonoma in the first round of the championship, trading some paint amongst teammates, but certainly setting the pace here for 4th and 5th in class as they rocket down to the hairpin and set up for this long back straightaway. There's plenty of space to get some slipstream going here as well.
There really is. There's a bit of a dyno run. It's 1 kilometer in length from the exit of turn 11 there all the way at the brake zone for turn 12. So this is where you need some power, certainly. And as you said, it's really a great slipstreaming battle as well, trying to tuck into that draft position.
And certainly that's the case in TCA as well. The Mini and the Honda Civic SI of Alex Garcia following each other up that backstretch. And of course, Alex Garcia won on debut at Sebring. See if he can back it up here at COTA. Back into the TCX field, there's the number 7 who's rejoined us, Mario Biondo, in the TCX field in one of those new Acura Integra Type S cars. And pretty frantic back here as these guys battle through the carousel.
Yeah, what a wonderful sequence of corners this is. This is a Triple Apexa, 17, 18. You're coming through right there, sweeps down the hill, beautiful flow and rhythm into this 2 left-hand corners, really important corners here as you get set up to come back on the front straightaway and complete the first lap.
Yeah, Nick Roberts just behind in the fast track racing car. He was entered in this race last year as well. Good to see him back in the field. But looking for a battle for second, Celso Neto pulls out to the right on Lucas Catania. Bit of a drag race up the front straightaway, but Lucas has got the spot for now. 7/10 of a second that Walsh has extended on Catania in the opening lap.
Well, Celso certainly had some pace in qualifying. Chris Walsh had to dig deep very late in this session, grab that pole position. But right now, looks like Lucas Catania is in that battle with Celso Neto, and that's allowing Chris Walsh to escape a little bit and start to dominate this race, as we've seen so far this season, gone 4 in a row. And look for 5 straight to start this 2024 campaign.
Tracking very tightly behind Lucas Catania into the S's. You don't have a great sight line there when you're following another car that closely. And you have to be careful not to shortcut the S's. That's a place that race control would like you to stay in bounds and keep the ball on the court there. It's very difficult when your car is full of a BMW M2 out the windshield.
It really is. Really important corner. S's slowed down there right for turn 9. Then you just leap back on the power. Flat out through this one. This is turn 10. Then you plunge down the hill. You can see we've had 4 areas of the racetrack that have been resurfaced this year, and this is one of them, kind of from the exit of turn 9 all the way down and through this brake zone and the exit of turn 11.
Yeah, that smoother pavement and certainly grippier as well with that fresh asphalt, so the braking performance is probably there, making drivers a bit braver into those hairpin corners. That could get exciting throughout this race, but look at the battle beginning to form. Is that Aaron Kaplan in the 18, and then Cooper Brohl right behind in that yellow, white, and black Acura Integra.
Walsh continuing to stretch the gap there. Just went purple in Sector 1, which is the best sector of the day for anyone on the racetrack right now. But Catania's keeping him honest. I mean, he's been the bridesmaid so many races over the last few seasons. He had 7 runner-up finishes last year, 4 to start this year. But he did win last year, and that was right here at Circuit of the Americas. So he certainly got fond memories of this circuit.
Yeah, Lucas won race 1 last year. I don't believe finished race 2 or was a couple laps down in that event. So certainly hoping to recapture some of that magic from 2023 on a charge to run down Chris Walsh in the 104 car. But back in the TC field, things are still pretty tight and tidy back here as they work their way through this stadium section, I call it here, Calvin. It's like climbing a mountain, but you're not going up. It's back and forth, switchbacks left to right.
Yeah, it really is. And so many of these corners here have been modeled after famous Grand Prix circuits around the world. This is like the Hockenheim Stadium section over for the German Grand Prix. But Joey Jordan's having a good day. They had a lot of work done on their shock system on that race car. They had terrible issues with that at Sebring, which is not a great track to have shock absorber issues, but they got it sorted, got a new package on the car this weekend. They've also got a new cooler on the gearbox, so they feel like they're in much better shape to deal with the heat that we're going to get here throughout the course of this weekend.
Yeah, certainly Sebring's not a fun place to not have your suspension set up. It's like a chassis dyno in the form of a racetrack. But
absolutely.
The 77 Ruben Iglesias still chasing Sally McNulty there for 4th place on the run up the front straightaway here. But looking like good pace for that 71, as you pointed out. Last time by just a bit off of Jeff Rika's pace in that 78, but he has just set the bar very, very high in his Hyundai. And this is PJ Gronke leading in the TCA category up into turn 1. Looks like he's dispatched Alex Garcia. 3.8 seconds is the gap from first back to second. And the Canadian certainly setting a pretty high bar here early in the going.
Yeah, I mean, he had things his own way to start the year, and then suddenly Alex Garcia burst on the scene and took that victory at Sebring. But it seems like PJ stepped up to a whole other level. It was close in qualifying, about 3/10 separating the two drivers, but early laps here, he's just taken off.
Yeah, 3 wins in a second, as you pointed out, Cal, the first couple rounds of the season at Sonoma and Sebring. But this racetrack is so different in so many ways from Sebring and Sonoma. It's got a bit of everything, fast-flowing corners and the tight handling section, which I think is the Mini's strong suit because of that short wheelbase. It can change direction very quickly, but they're no slouch on a straightaway either.
No, they really do punch through the air pretty effectively, and as you said, getting that short wheelbase, it allows the car to change direction very, very quickly, and you have a lot of those switchbacks, particularly through this sector that we're now looking at.
2 seconds out front for Chris Walsh, and Amanda Busick's on the pit lane with an update about Celso Neto. Amanda?
Yeah, just quickly, I know we saw that smoke from Celso Neto ahead of the race. I went over to Skip Barber, and they gave me a thumbs up and said that he's just racing with new brake pads, so should be able to settle into this race and give a fight.
Well, what may have happened if they put new brake pads in, he may have been trying to bed those in on those formation laps and maybe overheated them a little bit, so it could have been coming from the rotors themselves, and maybe things have cooled down now.
Oh, slide in front. Is that Lucas Catania that's gone for a spin? It is at turn 19 out of second place, Calvin.
Yeah, all by himself there. It's really a high-speed approach there. I love the sequence of corners coming into turn 19, but you suddenly throw the car in there and he just lost the rear.
And he's stuck kind of in the runoff area, so he can't drive forward because he'll rejoin the racetrack right in front of everybody else. So he might be stuck there for a moment. And that's certainly not what Lucas Catania would like. Now he's back pointed the right direction, but now down to 6th place.
Yeah, very rare do you see a Lucas Catania make a mistake like that, so I'm not sure if he's fighting an imbalance in the race car. He's certainly charging hard, trying to catch our leader, Chris Walsh, and just got a little bit wrong there. That's going to cost him dearly unless we see a caution.
Yeah, turn 19 is such a fast corner, too,
yeah.
And these cars don't have the downforce of some of the GT machinery that we'll see later on in the weekend, so it can be a challenging place trying to toss the car in and maximize the track limits there as well. Just got away from it.
Yeah, you're really loading that right rear as you turn in there. As we talk about that triple apex that precedes that, you flow down the hill with a ton of speed. You just a gentle brush of the brakes trying to turn in, roll a lot of speed through the apex, and he just overcommitted there a little bit.
Yeah, one of the other unique aspects of the TCX class is it's got front-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive cars in it, where in a front-drive car, if it steps out, you just hammer the pedal to the floor, and it'll pull itself back straight, but it's a bit more of a to-do in a rear-wheel drive car, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and I think the rear end just stepped out too far on him on entry, and that's really the catch. The track is really not giving you a lot of help there in terms of the topography once you get the rear losing grip a little bit.
So shake it off and get back rolling with Lucas Catania. So Chris Walsh, his gap is still now 3 seconds over Celso Neto, and it's very good that that was a brake-related issue, and obviously with that cleared now, the pace is right on par with what we anticipated out of the 22 Skip Barber Racing School car. Joey Jordan feeling some pressure from Christian Pericarpi in the 37.
He is. Great little battle there. We talk about that Mazda, the development process over the last year or so. They're certainly finding their feet now. Jim Jordan is on board there in terms of helping them develop now as well, pretty much integrated into the team. But Celso Neto up front went purple in Sector 1, so he's got some pace in that Integra. Wait and see how that develops for the TCX lead. But meanwhile, Joey Jordan, this is the deep into the brake zone, long straightaway, kilometer to think about where you're going to hit the brake pedal, and all of the time you're just trying to look in that rearview mirror and see where that contender is right behind you if you have to be proactive in your line there into that brake zone.
Yeah, speaking with Joey and Jim at Sebring, they thought that COTA would be a pretty strong track for them. So, you know, this is obviously a great start to the day, but they're on the back foot a bit in this battle for second place as Christian Pericarpi runs out wide onto those rumble strips on exit. These cars have enough ground clearance that you can clear it with the body, but you're going to feel that in your spine, aren't you?
Yeah, you really are, and obviously you got to be aware of the track limits. You get a couple of warnings, and then they're going to start to think about penalizing if you abuse those track limits so much. Here, there's almost a different zip code through some of these corners that you can utilize, but then it doesn't really make it safe in terms of where all the safety barriers are placed if you do that.
And here's a look at the replay for this is, I believe, the Mike Lamara machine, and he just got it gathered up just in time, but a big wiggle there into turn 19 again.
Yeah, similar to what happened to Catania there, happened a little bit sooner, so he was able to grab it and sort of like work things out, whereas I think Lucas was a bit more committed to the corner, a bit deep into the corner when he felt the slide.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's one of those front drive machines as we talked about. He was able to gather it back up before it looped around on him, but it seems like it's very slick over there. And as they climb up the hill here through turn 8. It's another corner. It's got one of those big curbs on the inside. One of the interesting things from the drivers' meetings where the track limits are here generally in the SRO weekend are the outer white lines. So you can run completely over those yellow curbs you know, you can still run over those curbs. Amanda's on pit lane. Amanda, what you got for us?
Well, I do have an Acura of Cooper Brohl sitting here as well. I'll chase that down to see what they're looking at. But I was just going to add on Mike Lamara real quickly. It's a very long day for this guy. He's going to be racing in our Lone Star Enduro tonight in that 3-hour race for the Pirelli GT4 class. I was talking to him and Biondo before the race, and it's so great to see them back racing with us. They're doing some abbreviated schedules, trying to fit in being dad in the process as well. But we'll race here this weekend. We'll see him later down the road in Road America.
It's great to see Alejandro racing back in the paddock here, Calvin. Of course, family first, but it's great to see him here in a partial schedule. Interesting to note that Cooper Brohl's machine's on pit lane. They had the wheel turned to the right there, Calvin. Maybe just trying to find some clearance, or
maybe a power steering issue, something like that. Certainly looking inside the left corner there, and then also under the hood at the same time. So he didn't qualify well. He was several seconds off the pace, so maybe this is a problem that was in qualifying earlier this morning and has reared its head once again.
Yeah, unfortunate for Cooper Brohl. It's going to put a damper on the first of the 2 races here in round 3 of the championship at Circuit of the Americas. Of course, it's a bit of a break until we head to round 4, which is at Virginia International Raceway in July, Calvin. And I heard some drivers tell me that there are some parallels you can draw with VIR and COTA. Just VIR's runoff is all green.
Yeah, very much so. Very, very different look. I mean, I think the ribbon of asphalt through the climbing S's there at VIR is so spectacular. Certainly looking forward to being back on site there in a couple of months. But as you said, it's kind of a mid-season, off-season, do you know what I mean, in terms of a big break before we see action once again with the championship. And that's what makes this weekend so important. You don't want to be sitting on a poor weekend. You want to come out of that feeling good as you get ready for the brunt of the season.
Yeah, maybe it gives you a chance to reset, though. Certainly if things have not gone your way in the first part of the season. It's been a pretty frantic outing all the way out west in Sonoma, all the way out east in Sebring, and then here in Austin, Texas. A little bit of a battle deeper in the field here. Oh, that's the 66 that is chasing Valdez there. That's Thompson running at the tail end of the TC field, running up the hill towards turn 1. And Honda Civic Type R versus Mini Cooper JCW, Calvin. So they're both front-engine turbocharged machines, but pretty different in how they go about it.
Yeah, that's about where the similarities end. But it's such a melting pot with this championship with the 3 classes, of course. So it's wonderful to see so many brands and manufacturers represented in the TC America classes here this year.
Yeah, and for Chris Valdez, I believe he was out at Sonoma, but missed the second round. So we have a look at a replay here into turn 1, the 66. Ran out wide, got the curb there on the inside and kind of bounced out, way out wide, and that's out of bounds there.
Yeah, you really need to get a lot more of the turning done. It's such a peak at the apex. You're climbing over 100 feet. There's an 11-degree incline up into that brake zone for turn 1. But I look at it as you want slightly early turning, but then really slow hands. It's like a long braking putt on a golf green. You just really need to get the apex. If you've still got turning doing as you come over the crest of the hill, then everything's working against you in terms of what the track gives you with the elevation change going back in the opposite direction, of course.
Should have an update on pit lane from Amanda with Cooper Brohl.
Yeah, you'll see he's out of this Acura Integra right now. They are push this behind the wall back into the garage. It is leaking oil. There is a gearbox issue. You guys got to remember, it's only the 3rd event for this Acura Integra. I see about 4 of the Honda guys over here in the situation as well. They look forward to getting to.
Yeah, I honestly have been very impressed with that car early on in the season in the championship, Calvin. You know, obviously bringing a new car to a championship as competitive as this is a big lunge from the 11 of Valdez at turn 13. This has turned into quite the battle, hasn't it?
Has. Thompson got by there and just took that big wide approach. And that's the problem with this racetrack in terms of running the ideal line. You just leave the door wide open through the entry of these corners. So it's really hard to protect once you have that track position.
And then that left-right combination from turns 13 to 15. Thompson is through on Valdez now. Seems to be dropping back just a touch, but kind of shuffled off course there, but at the exit at turn 15. This racetrack, while it's plenty wide dimensionally, it feels very narrow at places, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much a one-line racetrack at certain points, but in other areas you can really get creative with where you're going to place the race car, and it's all dependent on your competitor, what they're doing with their car, where they're placing it to just try and set up a crossover and have better acceleration coming off one of these corners.
And Jeff Rika chasing down some TCX traffic. And this is something I noticed in practice earlier in the weekend, is that Rika was able to run times that were kind of right up in the mix with the tail of the TCX field. And I guess being fast is a blessing and a curse sometimes, Calvin, because he's got work to do.
Yeah, you certainly got to be patient, right? You just want to get the hammer down and run your own race, and you're coming across some cars that theoretically should be quicker, but maybe with the driver's experience, they're not being driven in that manner. But, you know, I think Jeff has got so much experience now, he's just got to really think about the big picture, and that's the class win here today, and just extend that championship lead a little bit further.
Looks like Roberts trading spots there with Lucas Catania on a bit of a recovery drive after that spin at turn 19. And he will give chase up this long back straightaway. Actually got out of turn 11 quite well and bouncing over the straightaway. It's pretty bumpy at the crest of that hill. And I think for those that haven't seen Circuit of the Americas in person, I was immediately surprised at how much elevation there is just on the back straightaway alone. You can't even see the end of it because there's a huge crest right in the center.
Yeah, it really does rock and roll coming down that back straightaway. And as you can see, you're coming off another area of the racetrack that's been resurfaced there down through turn 11. To turn 12, excuse me, at the end of the back straightaway.
And there is Chris Walsh, your leader, now 18 seconds clear of the next, or sorry, 10 seconds in clear. And he has the Crowd Strike fastest lap for the moment, and perhaps no surprise with the gap that he's been able to pull on Celso Neto in the 22.
Yeah, he's got about 3/4 of a second in hand over Celso's pace. Now everything's sort of settled in here a little bit. Tires are well up to temperature by now, and he's just doing what he's been doing all year. He's just been flawless. And looking for 5 straight on the bounce.
At what point, though, and this is a long season, and you mentioned this big break, is this going to give other teams an opportunity to figure out what Walsh has got sorted out? I mean, no driver's perfect, right? At some point, there's going to be a, an issue or a mechanical problem or a mistake, even though it's been rare for Walsh to make. So is this break an opportunity for other teams to find out how to run him down? I
think it certainly is. I mean, we've seen over the last couple of years, right, drivers just dominate this class in terms of victories, but other drivers have kept them certainly close. And I think there is. But I think for Chris Walsh, I mean, immediately after he won at Sebring, he said, I'm already thinking about Circuit of the Americas in terms of the sim work and the prep. So I think he ticks every box. These wins aren't coming easily. He's doing all of the prep. The team's doing all of the prep, the Callis team. So they're doing a great job. And he's not going to rest on his laurels. He's going to prepare in this little break, as we talked about, before we get to VIR and be ready to rock again.
Yeah, certainly the preparation is there. The Callis race team, very experienced in the GT ranks as well, and moving into this TCX category, and they have just put on a show so far this season with the pace. As we look down the long back straightaway into turn 12, that braking zone once again for Chris Walsh, just nailing it and running effectively qualifying laps is what it feels like at the moment. But Jeff Rika has actually dispatched now 2 of the TCX cars and is kind of right in the thick of that as he continues his track leading in that category. And there's one of them, the 7, Mario Biondo, another one of the LE Honda World cars rejoining our ranks here this weekend.
Yeah, great to see Mario back. I mean, his customer team comes first, but when he has the opportunity to get back behind the wheel, he certainly loves it. He's come a long ways himself in terms of his progress. Ryan Eversley, who works with that whole group with their various racing programs, is a great friend of Mario and gives the team a lot of support and keeps Mario pointed in the right direction.
So looking at the stadium section, that arena area you mentioned, modeled somewhat after the Hockenheim ring, and the S's as well, got the Maggots and Beckett Silverstone thing going on. A little more elevation on the version here at Circuit of the Americas, but it's a very interesting racetrack, kind of stitched together some of the world's greatest circuits in a way that flows very, very well, and I think produces great racing.
Yeah, and I love this little sequence here. We talk about the triple apex, that's modeled after turn 8 at the Istanbul Grand Prix circuit, but then coming out of here, this reminds me, there's a very fast section at Le Mans. You come through Indianapolis and you come sweeping through at the end there after a long straightaway, and you bring it over to the right and back to the left. That really reminds me on that approach down into 19.
Looks like the 22's got a problem, not the drive that we'd expect out of turn 15 there, Calvin. A little off pace, and the time continues to go away from the 22 Skip Barber Racing School Acura. Things are not going the right direction for him.
No, he's way off the pace right now. We saw that smoke on the formation lap, which we believe was from him bedding in some brake pads, and that seemed to go away, but now he's definitely off the pace. Let's see if he heads for pit lane.
Lost about 10 seconds in that middle sector, and slowly working his way to the pit lane, and will come to the attention of the Skip Barber Racing School team. Of course, coming to grips with this new car, and the pace has been there as far as his pace in the race, but keeping it throughout the event has kind of been the challenge for them, but certainly something amiss. As we have a look at the 77, Ruben Iglesias junior, running 4th in TC and still chasing Sally McNulty in that 780. And she's had a pretty fun time in these Hyundais and has a lot of experience running in grassroots motorsports and is quite the wrench herself. Has an Elantra that she has at home that she does all sorts of modifications to. And here, obviously, everyone's running similar machinery on that team, but having a nice run in 3rd in class so far.
Yeah, she's doing a great job. Sits 3rd in the points right now on the back of a couple of podiums already this year. And I just love her passion, how she goes about her racing. So many of these entrants in this level of the classes that we have here in TC America have to dig deep. They have to make it happen. They have a little piece of support from multiple angles, and they manage to piece it all together and be here on a race weekend. So it's fun to see them have success.
I think it's great also that, well, there's the 22 now rolling into the paddock, and it's a long drive back up to the upper paddock here at Circuit of the Americas where they will have to address that. Hopefully they can get it sorted and be ready for race 2 tomorrow, Calvin, because you don't want to give up a full round worth of points.
Yeah, and I think he should score points by the position in the race where he did have his issues, so he should be good to score points, admittedly not what he's expecting with the podium run on the cards.
More on the 22 from Amanda.
Talking to Joe Minetto, with a team manager with Skip Barber Racing. What a tough day for them. I had asked if he wanted to give the update, and he said I'd rather not. So that's kind of an overview of how their day is going. But it's another gearbox issue for Celso Neto, the 2nd car out for Skip Barber today.
Another car I should mention also, Cal, is the 37, Christian Pericarpi. He was battling up there with Joey Jordan for 3rd, but he slipped down to the bottom of the order.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a surprise. I expected Christian to be fighting for the lead, let alone struggling now on pace. I assume some sort of technical issue with that. I mean, again, these cars, they're pretty much production based, and the temperatures we're now getting into in the meat of the day here suddenly you can get a lot of the sort of like fail-safe systems kick in, the safety nets from what is essentially a production-based vehicle can suddenly turn everything off, and you've got to cool things down and get them to reset maybe.
Looking at Lucas Catania and Mike Lamara, bit of a battle for 2nd or 3rd in class, about to shape up potentially. Remember, Lucas Catania looped it at turn 19, but his recovery drive has been pretty fierce, and he's all over Aaron Kaplan here through the S's. This is a fun battle as they sweep back and forth through this slalom-like section here.
Yeah, Lucas has had a lot of fun, as you said. He had that little mistake there in turn 19, but he's got his head down now and has caught this pack, and with some issues somewhat compared. Oh, that was loose there for Kaplan, and Lucas sweeps by the outside there and takes it away.
That was a nice move there on the outside of turn 8 and up into turn 9, and it's not going to leave the 18 any opportunity to retake that position. And up the road just at the bottom of that shot is Mike Lamara's 73. So, well, there's the 37. I think that answers that question, Cal. Something's amiss under the hood.
Yeah, it's a shame. Christian's got a lot of experience now at this level, real talented young driver, and a disappointing day for them. They're going to have to try and see if they can get this thing sorted out for tomorrow, and just wonder if it is temperature related. With this, up in the high 80s now. And
a lot of on-throttle time here as well. You pointed out the kind of the dyno run, the back straightaway, and you're coming out of a pretty slow dig there, 1st or 2nd gear corner, and then matting the throttle for what feels like ages until you hit the brakes for turn 12. So certainly challenging on these cars as well. A lot of downshifting as well. Something to consider in these H-pattern, the H-pattern gearbox cars in the TCA field in particular.
Yeah, certainly the drive tanks go through the ring a little bit, but up front, I mean, Chris Walsh continues to lead, and maybe a question of what might have been, because we see Lucas Catania's charge, and he's now running lap times within a couple of tenths of our leader. So certainly that BMW has got great pace here, but obviously that little moment has cost him dearly, but now he's back on a podium position run at the moment.
Yeah, I know Lucas Catania hasn't quite been able to match Chris Walsh in the pace so far this season, but when you look in a season-long championship and the run to it, if you can make your bad days not so bad, that will help you towards the end of the year. So if Lucas can recover and grab a 2nd place out of this and at least get 2nd place points, the spin, throw that out the window. It's almost like it didn't happen. So he can at least grab some points heading into tomorrow with another shot at the top spot.
Yeah, but the problem for him is the 2nd sounds great, right? But the problem is this is championship leader that's they're leading this race right now. So you're just falling further and further behind in that points chase.
Yeah, especially when it's pretty much just been the 104 collecting victories. And, you know, at some point, you're going to be in a pretty deep hole it'll be impossible to climb out of unless you have similar domination in the 2nd half of the season.
He'll keep digging. I mean, as we said, there always seems to be someone to beat, right? Jacob Rude and then Colin Garrett. There's always someone out there that's doing great things.
pretty fun race too here last year with Colin Garrett. I think the track was a little wet. There was a 3-horse race for first place there and a 2-horse race for second place here. Mike Lamara feeling pressure from Lucas Catania, but with how quickly this gap has fallen, it might be short work here for Lucas.
Yeah, and again, 2 different cars, BMW up against the Integra R Type S TCX, so we'll see how they compare here. Slightly shallower approach, maybe compromising that entry a little bit so he doesn't open up the door for Lucas to dive down the inside. Now it's a bit dyno run, see how the two compare here. This will be good in terms of how they relate to each other, BOP-wise, balance of performance.
Yeah, the front drive versus rear drive is always fun when you get to those tight switchbacks because those front tires on the Acura have to do everything. They have to steer, they have to brake, they have to accelerate. The BMW's got a bit more balance in that regard, but in the braking, big lunge for Lucas Catania, car wiggling a bit on the ABS, but he is through to second place.
Yeah, he's really got his head down. I'm not sure if he's frustrated or he's just having fun, but either way, he's certainly making big gains here. Cut his way back through the field, now up to P2. Curious to see what sort of lap time he can do. That will set the grid for tomorrow. Right now, Chris Walsh has the fastest time.
Yeah, last time by, Lucas was a hair quicker than Chris Walsh, but Walsh also might be on a bit of cruise control at the moment with the gap that he's got. And the 104 with that 23-second advantage here with 13 minutes to go. And Amanda's got an update on the pit lane.
Well, Christian Pericarpi came into pit lane concerned about the power that he had. As you see right there, that's Louis Pericarpi and Rob Ridgely. They were talking over what was going on. Christian's been struggling with power this year on the boost issue. It is related to an electrical issue that they've been chasing. I asked Louis if it was back to Sonoma, and he said, no, it's back to last year. We just can't get our heads wrapped around it. He said simply the car just doesn't want to participate today.
That's certainly interesting, Calvin, and it's so frustrating when you just can't find the gremlin that's causing your problems, because when that car has pace, it has pace and it's battling for the lead. Yeah,
it's definitely a potential race winner, so it's got to be really frustrating. There's so much effort into being here on a race weekend to be here and then have technical issues that thwart the performance of the car and your individual performance behind the wheel. But they got all day to try and sort it out for tomorrow, but sometimes the technical issues without getting back onto the racetrack are tough to sort out.
Alex Garcia running second in the TCA field. We mentioned his win in his first ever TC America race back at Sebring. However, he's got a track limits warning, and this will be his final warning before they start adding time or have him come down pit lane for a drive-through, Calvin. So got to keep it on the black stuff.
Yeah, you do, because I think there's a time penalty, maybe 3 seconds on the first. When you get to that 4th warning, then it goes up to 5, and then I think they just throw the rule book at you after that. But it's so hard to keep it together, particularly if the car's got a bit of an imbalance. And you know, if there's a concrete wall there, you're a little bit more conservative. But when it's just a painted line, you just feel you're going to commit and maybe run over a little bit and see if the stewards catch you.
Well, he might have to do some more dodging later. He's pulling double duty again in Toyota GR Cup. Big lunge over turn 19, getting after it there in that front-wheel drive Honda Civic SI. And Calvin, I have to say, this car, what a great affordable racing platform this Honda Civic SI has been for this championship. It's probably one of the least expensive ways to get into professional road racing, and just a full factory-built package from Honda. I mean, it's turnkey right from the factory.
Yeah, and I think you said the other day it's like in the mid-50s or something. So for a race car that will perform like this, that is an amazing deal.
Yeah, certainly, and to run in the TC America ranks. And for some drivers, Cal, this is the home that they've chosen. This is the platform they choose to race. And for some, this is the first step on what could be a very long journey in sports car racing.
It's a great ladder system. You mentioned grassroots. I think at a certain, for some of the teams, it really is done that way. But there's certainly some professional teams involved in all 3 categories running here today. But you can step up horsepower-wise, budget-wise, and then once you get to the top of the tree, TCX, and got success there, maybe think about moving up to GT4 machinery, and then ultimately the Fanatec GT Championship as well beyond that.
Final 10.5 minutes of TC America powered by Skip Barber here from Circuit of the America. Round 5 of the championship here, and in our 3 respective categories, the leaders have got things covered as far as the gaps are concerned. But Jeff Rika had a bit of a mechanical issue back at Sonoma, but didn't take long to right the ship, did it?
It didn't. You know, he's the dominant force, and that was really just a minor blip in terms of his season campaign. Got off to a great start last year, elected to skip a couple of rounds, headed off to the Nürburgring, kind of a bucket list race for him to compete at. And ultimately, that little deficit cost him the championship. Just couldn't claw the points back. Finished P2, runner-up position with a disappointing final race at Indy.
Yeah, had some bad luck, I think, back at VIR last year, or actually he missed VIR, but he had some bad luck at one of the other rounds as well. So things are looking up for him, though. Obviously, you mentioned there's the minor blip, only picked up 6 points in race 2 at Sonoma, but other than that, he's been at the top of the board for the rest of the season so far as he navigates the S's here in this Hyundai Elantra and Cup car, which, again, slight variations on these cars over the years. And, of course, Rika Autosport has definitely sorted these things out since they were initially launched a couple seasons back.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work, but now it's a really well sorted out race car, and Jeff's just enjoying it rather than just probably getting it back under the awning and going to work on it, trying to sort out all the bugs in it. Now he can just go out and race and execute.
Yeah, certainly. And this is one of those larger sedans dimensionally, but it actually hides its weight very well on the racetrack, certainly in race car form. It's down a couple 100 pounds, but it is a spectacular performing race car, and Jeff Rika and Rika Autosport have shown that. And all the while, quietly running second place is that 71 of Joey Jordan. He's just been lingering back there trying to pick up another podium.
Yeah, looking at his pace, he's a solid second off of Jeff's pace right now, but still a really good weekend for them, and they're continuing to work. They really feel by the time they get to VIR, they could be in even better shape. So totally new shock package on the car this weekend, so I'm sure they're dialing that in a little bit to get the ultimate performance from that Mazda.
Matty Lemke running in 3rd place in TCA, the second of the Canadians in that category, in the Ascent Racing number 9 Honda Civic SI. A little traffic behind her, working their way through. But Maddie's done a nice job this season. She's collected a couple of podiums at Sonoma and at Sebring. So running second in the championship at the moment, and just kind of picking away, learning what she can.
Yeah, and I mean, she's kind of in isolation a little bit. It's not a deep field in TCA this year, but we've got 4 cars here. We only had a couple to start the season, so it should build back up again, and I think this is just a great class for her to really learn the ropes, tick all of the boxes, understand what it takes to become a pro driver.
Yeah, I think especially with these cars, when you compare them to GT machinery, they have a bit less power, learning to carry momentum. That will help you a lot as you move forward in your racing career. It's a bit trickier to go the other way. We've actually seen that in a couple other series here, where Matty Oust, who ran TCX last year, stepped down in horsepower, and it's been a bit of an adjustment because you can't just mat the pedal and hide up any mistakes that you make. So that's why it's a great way to develop your racing career in these cars.
And then you've got Alan Grossberger, who's got it covered on both ends of the spectrum, right?
Yeah, how much more power does that GT2 car have than the Mini he's in right now? I think it's multiple times more power, and certainly the engine's in a different place as well. You probably parked the Mini in the engine bay of that Lamborghini. But there's Sally McNulty again. Fan favorite livery as well. New stickers and colors on the car this year, easy to spot at a distance. And as she navigates here, she's dropped down to 4th. Ruben Iglesias Jr. has snuck through and grabbed 3rd away.
Yeah, she's still pushing hard, though, and just a wonderful personality. I find to succeed in this sport, yes, you've got to have speed and do all of the things that a race car driver needs to do, but you need to be likable, and Sally's just a wonderful personality, well-liked in our paddock, and great to see her get this opportunity to be underneath the awning of a bigger team now.
And she's got to run the gamut of running touring car equipment, front drive, in a bunch of different series at the grassroots level and at the pro level, and some other championships. She's had opportunities that she's jumped into, but she's kind of found a home here in this TC class, and continues to pick up podiums and continue to learn, especially with the teammates she's got and that Rika Autosport team, which I think is well equipped along the way.
Yeah, and I think she's an inspiration for young girls who are thinking of getting into what is obviously a male-dominated sport, and we saw young Maddie Oust have great success here in the championship. That was fun to watch her progress through the years. So certainly there are a lot of really talented female drivers in our sport at the moment.
Well, I mentioned Chris Walsh might have been on cruise control, but he pushed the stock forward a bit. 224, 247, picks up the CrowdStrike fastest lap once again. So he's not taking it easy up front, is he, Cal? Just continues to push away. Yeah,
he's been pushing hard, and Catania now sits there 20 seconds back, running similar pace, which may bode well for tomorrow, because if Lucas is within a couple of tenths of Chris Walsh's pace, if he can tweak on the race car a little bit more for tomorrow, maybe he can try and thwart this dominant start to the year that Chris Walsh has put together.
I'm not really sure that we've seen a fair 1v1 fight yet, because Lucas has also spent a lot of time fighting the 22 of Celso Neto at the beginning of races at Sebring and Sonoma. Here's a great look that'll show us potentially where some of the advantages are for the Acura Integra, for example. Celso Neto quicker in Sector 1.
Yeah, no, so it's not a dominant all the way around the racetrack, but again, sometimes you'll set the car up to be compromised a little bit in one area of the racetrack to give the overall lap time. So, and again, he's not being pushed hard. I'm sure he's aware that Catania's only a couple of tenths off his best lap of the day, and that will give you pole position for tomorrow. So maybe he's got a little left in the tank in case he needs to respond. And we don't see many yellows in TC America, but if you should, you don't want to have used the car up and then you got nothing to defend with if we should have a shootout at the end of a race.
Yeah, interesting to note that Lucas was quicker in Sector 3 than Chris Walsh, which I think is a great area to be quicker in, because if you can get up to that race leader, you've got an opportunity to pass him in a couple places there. Joey Jordan working his way through some traffic, but he has got pressure in the form of Ruben Iglesias Jr. This is a battle for second in TC Cal.
Yeah, this has really gotten close here in the last couple of laps here, so I'm not sure if Joey's car is fading a little bit or whether Iglesias has found a little something, but a little twitch there using those curbs.
But it's as much Joey Jordan slowing down as it was Ruben Iglesias speeding up. He just ran his best lap of the race, so he's definitely gotten comfortable and is now applying pressure to the back of that FTG Motorsport Mazda 3.
Yeah, and their best laps are within a tenth of a second, so they're very evenly matched here pace-wise. And time is running out now, just over 3 minutes to go in this 40-minute sprint.
Yeah, about 2.5 minutes per lap, so we'd be looking at about 2 laps to go next time by, depending on where the leader picks it up. But Joey Jordan feeling that pressure, moved over center track there. And as the attacking driver, Ruben Iglesias, trying to pull out of the mirror here, but he's going to pull alongside, I think, Cal, into the braking zone, and now it's a duel on the binders into turn 12.
Yeah, really nice job there. Kind of got that slingshot and just came across. Joey had already positioned himself. You can't react to someone doing that behind. You have to be proactive, otherwise you're going to get the stewards come down on you pretty hard. But that's what makes it so difficult here with the wide nature of this circuit. It's really hard to defend. Like in here, you set up, ideally you'd be a lot more over to the right-hand side, but you can see Iglesias there, kind of a shallow approach that then compromise you coming off. You can see a bit more understeer coming off the corner because of his angle of attack and his line that he chose on the entry.
Well, they're still battling for second place, and Sally McNulty is going to see this up the road. And this is like the carrot dangling here. Can you run down the rabbit in the final couple laps here at Circuit of the Americas? She's just at the top right of the screen. So this is not over yet. I think Joey Jordan's going to have a great run out of 19 here. Look to the left. It's defended by Iglesias.
Yeah, that Mazda looks like it's handling really well, so I think both cars have got a good setup on it, and Iglesias there. Maybe the fronts are going away a little bit, as you said. Front-wheel drive cars, they're asking to do everything, the turning, the accelerating, coming off the corners, track temperatures screaming up here in the heat of the day as well. Everything working against you in the final couple of laps.
Looks like now he's got a couple car lengths into turn 1, so his dispatch, Joey Jordan, knocks him back to third place, but potentially leaves Joey vulnerable to Sally McNulty, who's just dealing with some TCX traffic behind.
Yeah, he's certainly got to get his head down and see if he can do anything with Iglesias. He certainly stretched it out here over the last couple of corners on the racetrack. The Mazda seems to be carving the corners really nicely.
Yeah, and the Hyundai also just pointing very nicely. These front drive cars, you wouldn't think that they are loose in the rear and sliding the rear quite a bit, but they set the cars up so that they rotate off throttle. Differential settings, you're going to try to play with those to make sure that you can rotate. And that's something that Joey Jordan was chasing at Sebring as well. They thought they found something in the diff that helped them rotate better through the corners.
Yeah, such a key element to get the balance right.
And there's a look at the bottom of the screen, the graphics showing Ruben Iglesias Jr. picking up a couple tenths here, a couple tenths there, and 2 seconds out of lap 14 a couple moments ago.
That was why it suddenly came out of nowhere. It's like suddenly we saw this battle, and he pounced immediately as well. So great pace. I'm not sure if Joey had a little mistake on that one lap that we saw where he's 2 seconds slower or had a little bit of traffic, but either way it has cost him that position on the racetrack. He's now down at P3. Trying to follow up on what's been a pretty solid start. 2 podiums out of the first 4 races of this 24 season.
The flag at the top of the screen indicating the leader, Chris Walsh, has just begun the final lap of the race with only 40 seconds left on the clock. I'm not convinced this one's quite done yet. I think any mistake that Iglesias Jr. has, Joey Jordan's close enough to pounce, but McNulty has not been able to get by that TCX class car to make it a 3-car race for second place. But there's your leader, Cal, working his way through the S's for the final time at Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, he's on the march once again, and just really impressive with what he's been able to do this year, getting this opportunity with this team. He's grabbed it with both hands. He's been flawless, great pace, no mistakes. has handled a little bit of pressure like it's not even there, so he's going to be tough to beat in this championship.
Yeah, but keeping an eye on the gaps, Lucas Catania has taken a few seconds out of it the last few laps around. 17 seconds is the gap. So tomorrow in race 2, potentially there's an opportunity for Catania to really launch an assault on that 104, but he can't have any distractions like he's had at Sebring or here in race 1 with that spin at turn 19.
Yeah, he needs a good clean race. Ideally, he needs a good start and try and get that track position early. But Lucas Catania is a fighter. I mean, we talk about how many runner-up finishes, but that just means he is so consistent and always on his game every single weekend, it seems.
So on the brakes for the final time into turn 12 for Chris Walsh, and looking to continue the dominating year that he has had. And as Amanda said, batting 1,000 in the early moments of this broadcast, and he just continues. There's TCA, your leader, PJ Gronke, the Canadian, not that far up the road from Alex Garcia. Alex has kept him within striking distance. It is only about 6 seconds, and Alex has taken some chunks out of that advantage here in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, about 4/10 delta between the two drivers in terms of fast lap, with PJ having the fastest lap in TCA, so that'll give him the lead position to start the race tomorrow. So he's ticking all of the boxes, and we talked about that Garcia charge coming into Sebring and grabbing the win immediately. PJ has responded nicely.
Last few corners for Chris Walsh and the Karis Kallis race team. They will start their weekend at Circuit of the Americas like they did at the other rounds this season. Round 5, a TC America powered by Skip Barber goes to Chris Walsh and Karis Kallis race team, and celebrations already beginning on the front straightaway. And the 62 of PJ Gronke Cal picks up another one.
Yeah, nice weekend for PJ. Really solid run here today.
Alex Garcia will come home in second place with his eyes set on that number 62 Mini for tomorrow's event. I think that TCA fight could still be pretty intriguing this weekend. And then looking at Jeff Rica, the 78 Hyundai, it has been another dominant performance. You mentioned the blip on the radar as far as the mechanical issue at Sonoma, but it has not held him back since. All systems go for that Hyundai in the last few corners.
Yeah, he's so polished, a really nice young man, and got great leadership of his whole group there at Rica Autosport. Does a solid job with his customer cars, but you put him behind the wheel, I think that's his sweet time. He gets there and gets focused and gets the job done.
Last two corners for the 78 Hyundai, and it looks like they'll have a couple cars on the podium. The Riga Autosport team. Here comes Jeff through the final turn, and in the TC category, another victory on the season for Jeff Rica for Riga Autosport in the 78 Hyundai Elantra N1 Cup. And should be a Ruben Iglesias Jr. chasing down from second place as well after passing Joey Jordan late in the going and stealing second place away, Cal.
Yeah, 4 wins now out of 5 for Jeff Rica, so he'll extend that championship lead. And we've got some dominant forces here in all 3 classes. Chris Walsh has won 5 of the 5, and PJ has won 4 of 5 in TCA. So it's up to the contenders to find a little bit more edge and try and give these championship leaders a run for their money for the rest of the season.
Yeah, we mentioned the championship leaders. They've got each at least a trio of victories among them, and at some point, the pressure will have to start mounting. I think, judging by the pace that we saw from all the cars in second place in each class at the end of this race between Lucas Catania, Ruben Iglesias Jr., and Alex Garcia, we could have a race on our hands, but the speed came pretty late in the race, too late to really launch an attack on the leader, so it's got to happen at the beginning of the race tomorrow.
Yeah, and Joey Jordan laid down a fast lap towards the end there, a little bit quicker than Iglesias, so there's some pace in that Mazda. They're going to fight back, but it's still a tall order to get after Jeff Rica. He just seems to have too much in hand at the moment.
I think he will love looking in the rearview mirror and seeing those two drivers fighting, Ruben Iglesias Jr. and Joey Jordan. Here's a look at the moment here for the results of the race. Of course, Chris Walsh on top in TCX. That gap dwindling towards the end. If Lucas Catania can fire off well tomorrow, I think we've got a race on our hands. Aaron Kaplan, Mike Lamara, and Nick Roberts round out the top 5 in TCX. Christopher DeFreitas in the Acura finishes 6th there, Cal, but Jeff Rica again on top in TC.
Yep, Iglesias and Joey Jordan, as we mentioned, round out the podium there. Great to see Mario Biondo back behind the wheel. He had a nice solid day in the number 7 Acura Integra.
Yeah, looking down, of course, Sally McNulty, Scott Thompson, in the TC class. Chris Valdez had a bit of a scrap there with the 66. That was fun to watch. But in TCA, it's PJ Gronke, the Canadian, snagging another victory in the 62 for the Mini JCW team. Of course, Alex Garcia just behind. His second ever race, second place. Matty Lemke rounds out the podium in TCA. Alan Grossberg winds up in fourth. Of course, some issues for Celso Neto, Christian Pericarpi, and Cooper Broll. And all three of those teams will head back to the paddock and try to figure out where the Gremlins are hiding for tomorrow.
Yeah, shame to see some of the most competitive cars in our field have issues here today, but again, doubleheader weekend, it does give you a chance to rebound for tomorrow.
And I think we learned some things as far as the pace that the drivers have relative to each other, but I think it's going to come down to the start of the race, the aggression that you have, perhaps too aggressive for the 17 of Lucas Catania. And yeah, that was a great fight there. But in a moment, we're going to have a look at all the exciting moments from this race. And there were a handful of them, Cal, throughout this. But here's a look at the start. And it was kind of a late start for the lunge here. That farther start line is where we're kicking things off. But already out of the gate, Chris Walsh shot out of a cannon. The 22 of Celso Neto up into turn one with Lucas Catania. Big bunny hop into turn one in the brakes. That was pretty exciting stuff. A little pushing and shoving there, Cal, as they work their way through turn one.
Big concern there was obviously the smoke as well from Celso Neto. That you can see even before the start there, everyone felt he was in trouble, but he did have pace for the first phase of the race at least.
A little battle there between Lucas Catania and Aaron Kaplan as well, and that happened once more later in the event. There's Jeff Ricca in the number 78 Hyundai that led for the majority of the race, actually the entire race off pole. And a big slide and slip for PJ Gronke in the number 62. And then there's Chris Walsh picking up the checkers in TCX once again, continuing the perfect score that he has got. If he was testing, he'd be in college for sure. That 62 up through the final corner for PJ Gronke, picks up a win in TCA. And then, of course, Jeff Ricca in the 78, grabbing one in the TC category. And what a weekend it has been for the TC America powered by Skip Barber drivers so far. But that's round 5 down. Round 6 still tomorrow. But Amanda Busick is down waiting for us with Chris Walsh in the 104 from Karis Callis Race Team, picking up another victory, Amanda.
Well, I'll let Chris continue this conversation for you guys, but as we teased at the top of the show, this guy remains betting 1,000 here as we continue on to the season in TCX. But you were just talking about turn 19. What surprised you about it?
Yeah, I think I was the opening couple of laps. I was trying to brake on the outside like you would want to on the racing line, and it felt like the track surface or something there. I saw Lucas spin there, so I was like, I just stayed off there the rest of the race because I didn't know what was out there. It seemed like an oil slick, but yeah, once we made the adjustment, we got enough away once that little kerfuffle happened for them, and it was just managing the gap for the rest of the race and taking care of the car and the tires.
Congratulations, Chris. We look forward to tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Kyle, as you teased, we'll see if Lucas, depending on that race tomorrow, see if he can hold Chris Walsh accountable. And PJ out of the Mini, per usual, hands in the air, celebrating. Looked like the track was a little bit of a handful today, but to get victory, top step, and knowing you have competition out there, how much more satisfaction is there?
Well, Amanda, it just makes it that much more worth it, that much more enjoyable to go out there and battle with Garcia and have to push every lap and just drive the living bejesus out of the Mini JCW. It's absolutely amazing. That's how we do things deep in the heart of Texas, which is absolutely amazing. My first win at this iconic track, and I can't thank my sponsors and partners enough, and it's always lovely to see you.
Congratulations to PJ Gronke. Always an exciting interview, guys. I'm going to have to throw in bejesus again at some point this weekend. That might be my favorite word I've heard so far. Jeff Ricca getting the win here. Missed it last year for the Nürburgring. Calvin Fish was describing your driving style and how you operate as polished. How do you describe it?
Well, consistency is key in this sprint races. You know, you could do a flying lap, but at the end of the day, you know, at the checkered flag, you got to be there every lap consistently and maintain these tires. So getting a chassis set up, getting a team that works, knows how to do this stuff, and working with a manufacturer like Hyundai USA, Hyundai Korea, Luca Mali. I love all of this. Thank you.
It's no secret that we're going to be battling some heat here this weekend in Austin, Texas. You just talked about managing the tires. Where does it become a challenge in this race?
So it's where you attack, right? And especially in the first race, we have to make sure that we get our quality lap in, right? So we're going to attack early and then just manage as much as we can throughout the race.
Congratulations, Jeff. And that music in the background means we're ready for podiums here. The first time as we celebrate the race one of the weekend in Austin.
Well, it's a spectacular racing weekend. The cloudless sky here in Austin, Texas. It has been a phenomenal start for TC America, powered by Skip Barber. As we wrap things up here from the first race of the weekend, round 5 of the championship is complete. The championship leaders extend their advantages, but who will take it to them tomorrow?